So we're trying to leverage technology to break down that barrier and serve up the training in a more convenient fashion. We don't want to suggest that this is necessarily easy. It is very easy to download the app and do 1 or 2 training sessions, but to encourage your team to do that a couple hundred times during the year, that is a different concern.
You're listening to the Limitless Leadership Podcast, the podcast designed to help automotive repair shops learn how to lead, coach, train, and manage their team better by sharing proven techniques and thought-provoking interviews from industry leaders. Are you ready to transform your leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results? Let's get ready for liftoff. It's time to go from great to greater. Here's today's episode.
Automotive is a recruiting partner built specifically for the automotive aftermarket, giving shops a smarter and more reliable way to hire technicians. Their team brings decades of industry experience together with real recruiting expertise. So they not only understand the work, you can trust that they understand your shop. Automotive handles every part of the hiring process. They source talent proactively, screen candidates thoroughly, and guide them through a structured, high-touch experience. Shops only meet candidates who are qualified, aligned, and ready to move. Shops partner with Promotive because they communicate clearly, they move quickly, and take ownership of the hiring process. They don't just forward resumes, they act like a true recruiting arm for your business. To learn more or start a search, visit gopromotive.com. Book a call, submit an opening, and see how Promotive helps shops hire better. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. We are here at the 2025 AAPEX Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm joined by a friend of mine. Our guest today is the president of today's class, Mr. David Boyes. David, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, David, if you would, man, go ahead and just get right into it. Share with the audience who you are, what you do, and how you do it.
Yeah. So today's class is an organization that's been involved in automotive training for a number of years, starting back in the late 90s. We've evolved a few ways in terms of how we've done that over the years. But today what we're doing is delivering training in a way that we believe is very accessible for both technicians and service advisors. And that approach is through daily sessions, typically delivered through a mobile app that take about 3 to 5 minutes per day. They personalize to each user, so your training would be different than mine. Because we've heard over the years that techs are hungry for training. Their shop teams want to deliver them training, but carving out time is often tricky.
Yeah.
And getting people the right training they need is also tricky. So we're trying to leverage technology to break down that barrier and serve up the training in a more convenient fashion.
So you're doing it in bite-sized chunks on a daily basis. It's also helpful because attention span, let's just be real. If there's a 45-minute training video, it's great, but a technician's not going to be able to take that time during the day if they're going to have an effective and a productive day. So that's great. And as a trainer myself in this industry, I love what you guys do. I think this is hugely needed. I think that there are so many opportunities for training that are often not captured. Let me ask you this, David. Actually, but before I get into it, because I already am thinking about questions I'm going to ask in regards to today's class. Let's learn about you, though. I'm curious who you are, what got you into today's class, what got you into this industry. Share with the audience who Mr. David Boyes is.
Yeah, so I grew up in Flint, Michigan, so it was always around automotive. I went to a small engineering automotive focused school, used to be called General Motors Institute. So I've always kind of been in and around this stuff. My background was in engineering and ultimately into software and a lot of supply chain focused areas. So a lot of it was about driving efficiency, trying to use technology to optimize operations and so forth. My dad had run today's class for a number of years. It initially started out as an instructor-led training organization and then moved into online training, what was primarily focused on schools. As I started working through my career, my dad was aging out. Ultimately, we determined that I would come in and step in for him for the business. And he retired. And as I came in, I started looking at the learning model that we had, which was the traditional online experience that everybody's familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
a 60-minute course on brakes or electrical, things like that. But what I would hear during meetings I would attend, whether it was ASE or TMC and other venues, was our techs don't have a whole lot of time to train. We don't know if they have the attention span, as you mentioned. We don't know exactly where they need training on. So that kind of tied back to my background in terms of, all right, software, optimization. Can we find a different way to do this, which better fits the constraints that these shops are operating under day by day?
Sure. Okay. Excellent. So when I think about training, especially in our industry, a lot of us hear the word training and we think about AAPEX, we think about SEMA, we think about the ASTA Expo. You're in North Carolina, you're familiar with the ASTA Expo. We think about Vision and these great conferences that have world-class trainers delivering world-class trainings. But let me ask you, because my opinion is that we treat training like a once-a-year thing or a twice-a-year thing. And we're often, when I say we, I'm talking about shop team members specifically, we're always living in the game. And the game is when we're at our shop and we're serving guests, we're fixing vehicles. But there's a gap, and I think the gap is the practice. There's the training gives you the knowledge, the practice is the action, and without action, that knowledge is just information. Let me ask you, because I think that 70% of training is forgotten after 24 hours and 90% is forgotten in only a week. Can you speak to how today's class, through daily practices, daily sessions, bite-sized chunks, have been able to bridge that gap from the training that happens, quote unquote, once a year to the game time that we're always living in?
Hey folks, running an auto repair shop, it's tough. We know that. And between managing repairs, keeping customers happy, and handling front office tasks, there's never enough time in the day. That's where Hub Shop Solutions comes in. Hub takes the burden off your team by building fast, accurate repair estimates and handling extended warranties, so you can focus on what really matters, running a profitable, efficient shop. With Hub, you free up your team, you boost efficiency, and you increase profits. So sign up now and get free onboarding. Visit hubshopsolutions.com to schedule a demo today. Hub Shop Solutions. Unlock your shop's full potential.
Yeah, absolutely. So our platform and the algorithms that kind of deliver the training leverage the findings of adult learning research. So you're right. People don't retain all the information that they would acquire in a course. But further, whether it's attention span or if it's your ability to just absorb knowledge, sitting in a 3-hour course, it's unlikely that you can have the opportunity to absorb all that information. If you do, great. But on average, that's not very common. Mm-hmm. Some of the studies will show that people can absorb about 6 to 7 minutes of information at a time. So not that to say that you can't flip that switch on multiple times during a course, but if you think about it and how long you can stay engaged, again, I think a lot of people interpret that as attention span, and it can be related to that too.
Yeah.
So the forgetting curve, the attention span, the engagement level, what we do is we try to reinforce knowledge over time. We are not going to assume that if you've learned about EVAP systems in our platform, that you're going to remember it a year from now.
Yeah.
So we're going to revisit that day by day. And the way that we focus or prioritize that training will be based on your individual settings, which could be different than mine.
Okay.
So your training might shift over time, but the goal is to recognize that it's important for you to understand this topic. And we're going to continue to measure where you are. And measurement's really the key. That our platform does that. So we can measure your confidence, your knowledge in that area, and revisit it, in a different way over time.
That's so good. Well, David, you've been a fantastic guest. We're at 7 minutes, and we talked about how that's all the attention span. So, hey, thanks for listening. I'm kidding. We're going to keep on going. So, David, you talked about how, what you said earlier, you said it without saying it, that you guys, it's not a cookie cutter training program, today's class, because it's positioned in a way where you're delivering content and training based on the user. Can you speak to? Can you elaborate on that? Like, how is today's class able to do that?
Yeah. So essentially, we start with what I would describe as an inventory of content. So we've built content in our way to work with our software platform. We are an ASE accredited training provider, so our content does meet industry standards. We've got a team of 5 ASE masters that architect this content. So we start with that. From there, it becomes, for each individual user, if you're an ATech in a shop, if you're an advisor in a shop, based on those roles, we know what training topics should be directed towards you and in a relative priority. Mm-hmm. Now, customers can refine that as they see fit. But then what happens is as you start engaging with the training, it begins to measure what you know and what you don't. So if there are 3 or 4 high priority items for you and you really struggle with one of them, then the system is going to lean on that and deliver you more training on it. One thing that the traditional training models often focus on is something like an 80% rule. You got 80%. Great, you passed. I would argue that there's 20% that you don't know, and maybe that's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's the way this behaves. It's going to focus on that 20% and try to shrink it over time.
That's incredible. So if I'm understanding you correctly, no one is going to be having the same type of training 45 days after they begin.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
incredible.
It branches off in a matter of days.
Yeah.
I mean, it considers things like, answer patterns, confidence, time. So even if you and I were both getting ATEC level training, within a couple days, it would begin to branch out.
All right, folks, as you know, great leadership isn't about doing everything the best. It's actually about having the right partners in your corner to build your shop's success. It's about putting the right team in place. It's about choosing the right vendors to make you a pro, making pro moves. And when I think about the pros, I think about shop marketing pros. The know, like, and trust factor, that's a real thing. And Shop Marketing Pros understands that. That's why I want to recommend Shop Marketing Pros to become your marketing partner in your shop. They get to know, like, and trust you and your business to then help your audience get to know, like, and trust you too, and bring your shop to the next level. So when I talk about making pro moves, this is the kind of move I'm talking about. This is the kind of standard-setting partnership that's going to elevate your shop. So if you're ready to become a pro in your shop, visit shopmarketingpros.com and partner with the best.
Okay, that's incredible. That's amazing. So you said there's 5 master certified ASE technicians, or not technicians, but the ASE certifications on your team who are creating.
Yeah, five master techs that are kind of developing this content.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Let me ask you about, because this is a leadership podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So you have folks on your team. It's a team effort. It's a we before me mentality. You are growing and scaling. I'll just ask you, David, what does leadership mean to you, but also speak to what leadership looks like from an internal perspective at today's class?
Yeah, so I think the best way to sum it up would be along the lines of to do what needed to be done, but it's not going to be done unless, I step up and do it or somebody else steps up and does it. I think that's really the key. And I try to do that, but our team does that as well.
Okay.
If we see a gap, if we see a customer opportunity, if we see something that's standing out that needs to be addressed, stepping in and doing that and empowering people to do that and celebrating it when they do it is really key to how we stand up, for our customers, being responsive, taking those calls and stepping in where we need to.
I'm curious. I mean, from an internal perspective, you have content that you're delivering online for your customers and for folks in the shops. Do you create content for today's class, like for the actual internal group?
Oh, for our team? We
Yes.
have a bit. Yeah,
Okay.
but a lot of that is as a small company, sometimes we really should focus more on that. Eat our own dog food sort of a thing.
Sure,
But
yeah.
it's one of those things where with bandwidth concerns, it's like, okay, do we need to focus on this new electrical training or should we focus on our own SOP policy?
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's I'm sure every business operator can deal with that struggle in terms of how you focus on that. But we certainly have room for opportunity there.
What would you say is the biggest change that you've made since becoming president and essentially assuming the role that you're in from your father? And what has been what's one major thing that you knew we had to keep, we had to stick with this because this is the foundation that my father built this on? Can you answer both those questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing that we've kept is really the customer responsiveness. That is key for us. We need to make sure that we're engaging with our customers, delivering what they need, not tell them it's going to take us 5 days to respond to them. So we really have focused on that in our previous iteration of a business focusing on schools. We're doing that with teachers, whether it's trying to create a customer report or helping them out of a jam. With the type of work that we do, we don't expect an automotive shop operator to be an administrator of a learning management system.
Oh, yeah.
That's not their skill set. They got 1,000 things that they're doing.
Sure.
So we need to adjust our model to support them. If they say, for example, I have an employee that is interested needs to take an ASE cert, or it's the end of the year and I want to generate some reports to understand what my team achieved this year. Again, we don't expect these customers to know how to do that stuff right out of the box.
Sure.
So they can reach out to us. We'll put it together for them. And that helps develop the relationship. It also helps us better understand what they're looking for. And then maybe we can do a better job of productizing that or making it something that's more available off the shelf for a future use case.
If I'm listening to this episode, by the way, if you're listening and you want to watch, again, we are at the 2025 AAPEX Show. We're right smack dab in the middle of the trade show. And you can find us on YouTube at The Bearded Leaders, where you can watch this episode. But if I'm listening or watching this episode and I'm interested in today's class, I want to learn more. I want to find out more about this service, this product, if you will. Where can I go?
www.todaysclass.com. So we've got resources on content, we've got videos, and lots of good information available on the site.
Great. Thank you, David. And I assume that I can book a discovery call with someone and we can jump on a call and talk about how today's class can best serve me and my team as well.
Yeah. So typically we start there because one thing that for folks that are most successful with this platform, they drive it daily.
Yeah.
Now that requires a habit to be formed for your team, which isn't the easiest thing to do. So in these introductory calls, we try to just set that expectation a bit, answer any questions, address any concerns, because we don't want to suggest that this is necessarily easy. It is very easy to download the app and do 1 or 2 training sessions, but to encourage your team to do that a couple hundred times during the year, that is a different concern, different change management, different communication, different accountability consideration. So we try to get that out on the table right from the get-go.
Okay.
And then, obviously folks want to see what this looks like. So typically they'll join a demo, but then ultimately one thing that we do is a 90-day onboarding phase for shops to test it out.
Okay.
And see how they respond. And at this point over the past year, so about 82% of the shops that go through that become subscribers. But roughly 1 in 5, for whatever reason, it doesn't fit. That's okay. They can kind of, disconnect it at that point, but they were able to benefit from it during that period.
I'm making an assumption here. I know I shouldn't, but I'm about to. I guess I can. I'm the host of this show. I'm just going to make it happen,
nuts.
David. Okay, go nuts. So, I'm going to make an assumption that the 1 in 5 didn't give it the time, effort, or energy that it deserves in order to form the habit. Could you speak to the importance of, or really speak to, let's talk about habit formation. We know it's necessary. Changing behaviors, forming habits, it's challenging. It's hard. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. But we want to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Growth and comfort can't coexist. Can you speak to the importance of forming habits as someone is onboarding into the today's class repetition, if you will, making it a regular part of their schedule?
Yeah, I think one thing that we really focus on is, what's in it for me? Why should I be doing this? What's the benefit to the individual, to the business?
Okay.
If the habit is solely about, do this because I want you to, that doesn't really get very far. So we try to provide a lot of support to say, okay, here's how you can use the data and the outcomes for this to benefit your shop. What is it you are striving for? If you're really just looking to plug a gap and say, well, hey, here's some training that's available, sure, it can do that. But that will only buy you maybe 8 to 12 weeks, and then your team will burn out on it. But if you're using this to, again, measure engagement, deliver additional coaching, identify where people could benefit from additional training, there's a lot you can squeeze out of this. But then you've got more credibility or more of a push to get that daily habit in place.
How much onus is on the shop owner once they invest in today's class for their team to either hold them accountable, to make sure that they are the ones who are providing clarity and really the why, because they can say, look, hey guys, I got you today's class. And people are like, well, what's today's class? They can share what today's class is. And then people are thinking, why are we doing this? And we know that when the why is clear, the how is easy. I'll ask you, David, you said that you provide a level of support. Is it kind of a joint effort between today's class and the shop owner? How does that work?
Yeah, so they need to come to the table with the why.
Right.
What is it they're looking for? And then what we can typically do is say, all right, well, to deliver on that promise, here's how we can support you, whether it's reporting or use cases or different functions in the platform. So again, whether it's they're looking to deliver X number of hours of training per year. A lot of folks are focused on ASE certs and how we can serve them up. So once we know where they're aiming, we can configure the platform to drive towards that.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. Well, David, the second question I ask every guest on this podcast is, what is the best advice you've ever received from a coach or a mentor? Can you answer that question for me?
So I would say, I don't know if it's advice or more of a reality check, but it's, change is hard. These things aren't done easily, and you have to be willing to put in the work to do that. Whether you're trying to create a habit, drive financial change, make tough choices. But those things, if they were easy, everybody would do it.
That's right.
Accepting that it's going to be difficult and being willing to stay the course and keep pushing and realize you might have to take small steps to get there, I think is key. So I think going into anything like that, whether, a big piece of what we're trying to do, we're trying to shift the industry a bit in terms of looking at training this way. And that's not easy. There's a lot of behavior, a lot of built-in legacy approaches that have some challenges with them. And we're trying to open up a new path. Certainly not going to be the only path that's out there, but we feel like we've got something to contribute. But it's tough. We got to keep chipping away. So that's the global view, but we can relay that to an individual shop owner as well for them to drive this with their team. We recognize that change is going to be hard, and we want to support them as best we can.
Well, I really appreciate what you guys do. It's definitely needed. We talked about that. It's also wanted. I mean, you talked about that. Technicians want this. A lot of people don't know about it. I want to go back just for a second and when we're talking about affecting change, you talk about how change is hard. Like that's the advice you're given, maybe the reality check, whatever it is though, change is hard. And I call this the J curve, where we start on the lower end of the J and we're trying to go from the lower end to the higher end, but we know that progress is rarely linear, and we are often going to actually take a dip in success, a dip in accuracy, a dip in efficiency and productivity, and too many of us quit in the dip. So I'm just going to say this: if you're in the 20% or the 18% of folks who are not subscribing to today's class, I'm going to challenge you and suggest that you're quitting in the dip. We know that the end result is a tremendous ROI. It's a tremendous ROI if you're investing in today's class. It's going to require some change. It's going to require some habit formation, some behavior changes. It's going to require a bit of a dip, but don't quit in the dip. If you go through it, you will grow through it. But my hope is that we can get that number up to, closer to 90, 95, 100% of folks who are seeing the value, putting forth the time, effort, or energy. But I just want to thank you for being here, David. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for today's class, for another resource. It's up to you, the listener, to be resourceful. We got resources. Now let's get resourceful. So thank you for being here, David. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks very much for having me.
And thank you again for tuning in to another episode. As you know, that we look to transform our leadership skills by tapping into unrecognized potential to achieve limitless results. So thanks again for being here. Have a great day, everyone. Don't forget to smile today. Tell your loved ones how much they mean to you. I'm Josh Parnell, reminding you to keep leading well.